I'm Leon Davis, and this is my inaugural podcast, and it starts right now. Welcome to Altitude Adjustment. Well, thank you for joining me. It is 2 o'clock Central Time, and as my first podcast, I've chosen the topic of advertising. I do quite a bit of research on the internet, and then since I started the podcast, that was even before, just doing searches for news and information and finding out about things that are going on around me. I don't do much television, but so I fill my time with my internet. And one of the things that perplexed me, I guess, or at least challenged me, was being able to go out and do research and not be harassed. So let me give you a few facts about advertising. The United States is by far the largest advertising market in the world. In 2016, more than 190.78 billion US dollars were spent on advertising. Now that is more than double the number two, which is China. They only spent 74.96 billion. Television ad spending is projected to lose its top position to digital advertising, as digital advertising has seen a phenomenal growth. It is expected to reach over 60 billion in 2017. Went from wait a minute, an increase of nearly 60 billion. My bad. That was in 2015. It was up around 83 billion US dollars. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Up 60 billion to 83 billion US dollars for mobile advertising. I had a graphic here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Talks about digital advertising spending. In 2013, it was $42.8 billion. In 2015, $59.6 billion, and the advertising spending in 2016 was $72.5 billion. And that's a lot of money being spent on digital advertising. I remember when they were concerned that digital advertising wasn't going to be prosperous as far as advertising goes, but we can see that obviously has changed. The Interactive Advertising Bureau, and I looked up this site, and it appears to be an advertising agency for digital content. So they create and sell advertising packages for digital content. They did conducted some research, and they projected that advertising revenues for digital content would top $220 million in 2017. That's an 85% leap from the $119 million in 2016. Now, the research confirms that the mainstreaming of podcasts, showing that nearly a quarter of the U.S. population over the age of 12 listens to podcasts on a monthly basis, and on average, they subscribe to 6 podcasts a week. So, Google happens to be one of the largest companies that sells digital advertising, and it's reported that 95% of Google's revenue is from advertising, and the average person is served over 1,700 banner ads a month. Now that's those ads across the top of the pages as you go to the page. Most of us, well, hopefully, I can say hopefully. So some of us skipped over those, but you're served 1,700 of those in a month. Estimates are that half of those are viewed. Now, 8% of the internet users, and these are some facts I kind of picked up. 8% of internet users account for 95% of the clicks on displayed ads. Only 1 in 1,000 in an ad campaign gets clicked. So they've recently started adding advertisements to YouTube. So when you do videos, even in some other places, they're adding advertising to the middle of videos. Those what they call mid-roll videos, or mid-rolled advertisings, they run in the middle of the content, and they run to completion 97% of the time, meaning that people watch them to the end 97% of the time. The ad videos that are created and run at the beginning of a video or at the end of a video. At the beginning of a video, the completion time, watching the ad to completion, is only about 45% of the time. Or I'm sorry, at the beginning of the video, only about at 74% of the time it's watched, and then at the end of the video, only 45% of the people watch the whole video, watch the whole advertisement. Advertisements, they break it down into 10-second or 15-second, 20-second, and 30-second videos, and they gave statistics on watching those to completion. Videos that are 20 seconds long are usually watched 60% of the time to completion. The 15-second videos are watched 84% of the time to completion, and then the 30-second videos, which are the longest of the three of this group, are watched 97% of the time to completion. I found that kind of interesting. My concern with the advertising is that advertising was supposed to help bring about content, help content providers to provide content and help them pay for those content, so that you or I or whoever goes to that website or whatever that digital area was to get content, that they could make money to continue to bring that content. So the content was supposed to be king, and the advertising was supposed to help facilitate that. And I feel a shift. I feel a change in how that's being perceived. That in most cases, the advertising becomes the reason you go there, and people are putting together sites with little content to just serve the advertising. So this agency, the IAB, put out a I don't want to put it out on their website. They put up this information about advertising and what it was causing, for how the problem was causing users to have poor experiences at a lot of sites. And so I'm going to read you what they said here. When implemented by consumers, they're talking about ad blocking here, and then we'll go back because I'll talk about ad blocking a little more. But what I want you to pay attention to, what they're talking about as far as the experience. When implemented by consumers, ad blocking is a crucial wake-up call to brands and all that serve them about their abuse of consumers' goodwill. Ad blockers are also exploiting a real vulnerability, the erosion of the stimulating consumer experience online. For this, the marketing media ecosystem bears real responsibility. IAB research shows ad block use is caused by a general disdain for advertising and concern about the safety of user information. In our national representative survey, 89% of respondents who have installed ad blocking technology reported using ad blockers to improve their experience. The ads deemed most intrusive are video ads that play automatically, screen takeovers, and blinking ads. All ad types that directly interrupt the consumption of content. These findings should be an alarm to everyone in media and marketing. We are mistreating our most valued asset, our customers, our consumers. We can talk all we want about ad-centered value exchange between consumers and media, but until we commit to the cause of ever-improving user experiences, advertisers and media will be at risk. So I want to just take a quick look at some of the, in the article they mentioned ad blocking software. I've been using ad blocking software for probably, I want to say 6 or 7 years. That's what comes to mind. I didn't mark it down when I started using it, but it became difficult. I remember Yahoo was probably the most egregious offender for the longest time. You'd go to the Yahoo homepage, and then these ads where things would pop out, and the advertisement would run, and it was cars driving across the screen, or things blowing up or moving, and it was difficult to ignore to close the advertising. It was impossible to ignore, but it was difficult to close the advertising and get to where you wanted to get to. But I ran across some of these ads, and I had to turn off my ad blocker to get the experience of what it was like to surf without an ad blocker. And it was an eye-opening experience for me, because I had been using an ad blocker for so long. There were only a few ads that would get through. And I'm not against advertising by any means. I think advertising provides an extremely important function in our society. One of the things, and I'll get back to this, showing you some of these ads real quick. Well, let me do those first. Okay. Now, this ad, I was trying to get to this web page. I was looking for some fonts, and you can see the ads on the left-hand side as they load, and a couple of them look like they were the exact same ad, but they had added long after the content of the page had added, which slowed down the content, or slowed down the page load. This was a website I went to. The page came up, and then this full page just covered the whole browser. Ad just started and it ran. And then this was some files I intended to download, or I was looking for graphics design programs, and you can see that at the top and at the bottom of the page there are all these advertising, these Google advertisements, and they were designed to look like the files I was trying to download. So you can't, so you have to stop and either pay attention to make sure you don't click on something by mistake. And this is I guess my favorite Yahoo with the large banner ad. So here's some of the ads that still shots that I had. This is I had downloaded a file, and there's these, they say download, and they're not the download for the file that I was looking for. So if you click on it, you wind up downloading something that you had not intended, and they look just like the download button that you need to press to get the file that you want. And you can see that the page is basically full of advertising. Alrighty. Okay, and then this is, and I'll move this real quick because these are floating ads. Okay, so on the left there is a floating ad, and it covers half of the page uh, from top to bottom, and then a fourth of the page widthwise. And in order to get rid of it, you have to close it. So when you go to the page, it's just there. There's no way around it. And on the right here is also a floating advertising, so that both of these, when you scroll up and down, they stay in the field of view. Also across the top, there's there is an area that is advertisement, and it's so all of this real estate is covered until you close it, so that you can get to the content that you wanted to see. Alrighty. Yes, here. Okay. This one, you load, the page loads, and before you have a chance to read anything, to even get your bearings on the page having loaded, this loads. It's there. You have to click, you have to do something to actively remove that from your field of view in order for you to get to the content that you went to that page to get. Alrighty. Okay, and this is one of the ones that I mentioned before. You want to download a file, so I went to download a file. Move that down just a little bit. So the download link that I need is just above my video here. You can see there's 3 download buttons. So two of them at the top of the page says start download. Those buttons do not lead to the content that I'm looking for. So if you're not paying attention, if you haven't done this before, went to this site before, you can wind up clicking the wrong download links. Alrighty, and then let's see. I think I have one more on this page. Oh yeah, one of my favorites. This is the banner ad from. Okay. It covers almost a half of it. First off, they've given it the whole width of the page, so there's no, in the margins, there's no content there. So the ad is just absolutely just, in order to get to what you want to get to, now you have to scroll down the page. And so I remember, as part of designing web pages, part of the designing of web pages, that you wanted to make sure that your content was easy for the user to get to, that they didn't have to scroll several pages at a time to try to get to that content. Now that's gone out of the windows. It's advertising. I got disconnected here. Okay, there we go. Got disconnected short term, but that seems to have resolved itself. One of the things I wanted to point out, advertising is usually thought of to sell goods and services, but it can also be used for political campaigns, for convincing shareholders and employees that the company is doing well, or to sway opinions about a merger, or to sway opinions about other ideas. It also has been used in social change. So as a part of the promo, I talked about that. Social change, recently several high-profile television personalities have been removed because of campaigns attacking either advertisers or by advertisers taking the initiative to ask for change in that area. So advertising can have a tremendous impact, and it is a tool that's important. But if it's gone awry, if it's not serving us, if it's serving itself, how does that help? How does that help society move forward? There were, there's pop-up ads, there's email ads. Getting on email. So I was out doing research for this show, and I ran across an article and I wasn't aware of it, and it surprised me. There was a suit against Yahoo and Google that they were scanning emails before they got to in transit, basically moving from one server to another server to your inbox. They were scanning the emails for keywords so that they could push advertising at you. It may not have been illegal, but what's the ethical question there? Is there an ethical question that, so people say that there's no privacy in emails because you sign up for a free email account? They seem to think it's acceptable, or some people think it's acceptable, to not expect a certain level of privacy. So I'm thinking, if you're sending something to someone, you expect it to be read by that someone. Now, if that someone that you sent it to shares it with someone else, that's different. Then your issue is with that person. But when a company believes that they have the right to intercept your communication and use it for their benefit, I question that. So the Google suit, Yahoo settled, but they said that they would no longer scan the emails in transit, but they were still going to scan the emails after they arrived at their destination. So they're going to continue to scan emails. Google, which the settlement hasn't been reached yet from this article, the first Google settlement was rejected, and so they went back. Supposedly on the 31st of August. I did not find the follow-up, so I'll have to look for the follow-up on that, but it was supposedly a hearing was scheduled for the 31st, and I'll look for that and update you on that as I find it. So advertising has caused people to abandon just social norms, just in the attempt to push products. I found that, which I thought this was interesting. Most contemporary advertisements do not introduce new products, but serve instead to encourage current users to continue using their product. So I was always thinking of advertising as well. The big part of it was that it helps you know what. So like in your neighborhood or in your area, there may be a new service or a new product that you weren't aware of, and advertising was there to help you learn about that and be informed of that. And so what they're saying here is that that's not necessarily the case, that it's all about branding and making you buy more of what you already buy. One of the things that really kind of gets to me is I may go out because I have some issues, so I do a lot of shopping online, And the one thing I just really have difficult time with is I buy something online and then I continue to get notifications of I could have bought this here for this price, or I could have bought this here for this price, or trying to sell me that exact price or sell me the exact item I just purchased. So yeah, I don't I don't know if this current iteration of online digital advertising is working to the benefit of the customer. If it's limiting the ability to quickly get information, if it's interfering with just going and doing things in a reasonable period of time, and if it's not introducing you to something you don't already know about, what then is the benefit of it? How does it enhance your life? One of the things that surprised me was in the need to try to sell you things, they have what they call ambient ads now. Ambient ads are like you're walking down the street and it's painted on a signboard, or it's painted on the sidewalk, or it's in the bathroom on the hand dryers or something of that nature. It's just advertising done in normal places where people just do things in public, and there's advertising. So you're not so you're never away from somebody trying to encourage you to buy something. So it's consumerism. I don't want to use that term, so I'll back off of that one. Some of the things that I ran across were about advertisers. Some fun facts were interesting. Some were really uncomfortable. Probably I'll save those for another day because we're running close to the time. And one of the things I wanted to do, this was my first podcast. I wanted to kind of get my feet wet and get the experience. I had material, so because I didn't time the material out, I have quite a bit of material left over. 30 minutes, because I wanted to do a podcast for 30 minutes. A 30-minute podcast seems like a lot of time, and it can be, but depending on how the information is presented, it could be a really short time, or it could be forever. But anyway, I want to go ahead and try to wrap this one up. I will do another podcast on advertising. Again, I think advertising is an important aspect of we as a society, and how it helps us be aware of the things around us. It helps inform us and educate us, and I want to make sure that it does that it does help, that it does augment, and not become the reason itself. It doesn't feed on itself, so that it is advertising for the sake of advertising. I wanted to thank a couple of people real quick. Pat Schaefer, she's provided the hardware, the equipment, the server, or the workstation that I'm working on. Warren Harper Jr., he provided the camera and the muslin cloth that you see behind me in the background. Without that muslin cloth, you would have a different idea of me altogether. But I wanted to say thank you to him. My sister Mary provided the lighting for me so that I would not be sitting in the dark. And the rest of my family, they've provided moral support. I want to thank those people. And then there are also several people online who have been there for me. Trying to think of them right off the top. Marcia Woodland. I want to thank her. She's been a big encouragement here. What I'm going to try to do is incorporate more feedback from users, so you can converse online, share in the podcast, so you can make comments and talk to me and ask questions and things of that nature. I do intend to have guests, and you'll be able to interact with those guests. We're doing the video. I'm doing the video podcast, and I'll put it up as an audio podcast for those people who are want to get it on the go. And we'll see where it goes from here. Please leave any comments that you may have. Subscribe. Make sure you subscribe, and if you find that it's useful, share it with others. That would be most important. And I want to thank you for taking the time to let me come and share with you. And hopefully you'll join me for my next podcast. I haven't just totally decided yet what the topic will be, but I'm working on it. And as soon as I know, you'll know. So stay close by, and thanks again.